All right, everybody, welcome back to Talkin Banter. Uh, gonna be a short episode this week. I think next week all of my home buying stuff will be wrapped up, and I'll be able to get some things going. But I gotta kind of call whoever's listening to this out because David so far has been the only one that expressed any um, interest in coming on the show. And I do have a history road, so I guess it won't be like that short. But I do have a fan submitted history road to read, so that is coming up. But I don't know. This week, I gotta be honest with you guys, this week did not really do it for me as far as dynamic banter goes. I feel like it was just not a super entertaining episode. I don't know, because maybe I don't want to do too much shit talking, but maybe I'll end up looking back on the episodes that are like this and really appreciating them, because more than it just being two guys talking about whatever and making jokes, they actually talk about themselves, and we learn more about Mike and Steve on this episode. But really, I think if you wanted to call this one Mike and Steve jerk each other off, you probably could get away with that, because, well, it starts off with Mike setting up his interaction with Nicholas Hamilton. And I was on board. I was like, okay, this sounds like it's going to be funny. Sounds like there's going to be some like fun, witty quips between friends and stuff. And as soon as Nicholas got on, for me at least, it sort of immediately went kind of awkward, because he was just trying to say like, hey, I don't want to be annoying and I'm sorry about that. And that was really it. He didn't like try to argue his point. I thought it was, I mean, I don't know. I think that maybe Mike and Steve sort of realized that too, because Mike, it seemed like he was trying to turn it into a joke. But then after Nick gets off the phone, I feel like the two of them just sort of like took turns stroking each other. And I don't know, it was kind of strange. Like, the whole dynamic of Mike and Steve calling up Nick to confront him about whatever disagreement that they had ends up being sort of weird when you're like, okay, well, you guys are like twice this kid's age, and not exactly twice, but you're like twice this kid's age, and you're like, picked on him a little bit in the last show, and it was all jokes, it was all love, whatever. But then like called him up to seemingly just kind of pick on him some more. I don't know. It kind of made a weird power dynamic right from the beginning. And I feel like they realized that, and then they, joked about it as much as they could. But, yeah, then after Nick gets off the phone, they just kind of took turns talking like, well, this is the way that I am, and like, I'm not going to apologize for it, and I don't need to be any different. And like, whatever. If that's how they think about themselves, then sure. And I'm sure that there are things that all of us feel that way, where we're like, no, I've put effort into who I am as a person, and I know who I am, and if somebody asks me to change something that's unreasonable, I'm going to tell them to get lost. I'm not going to change myself for somebody else that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't have to matter that much. But it just struck me as weird. And then they both started talking about like, oh, well, we make jokes, and like, I don't know. It was strange. I don't even really want to get into it that much, because I feel like I don't have that many nice things to say about on it. And yeah, another thing I kind of want to get into, which will sort of be more of the topic of this show, is on the Dynamic Banter subreddit, there have been a few. Well, there was one post this week specifically about this episode, and there was another one a couple months ago But this person posted and they basically said, like, this episode was terrible, the show's going downhill, and, like, this episode was a real eye-opener of that for me. That person saying this. And a mixed response in the comments. Some people being like, oh, yeah, some are good, some are bad, and it is just what it is. And other people being like, oh, yeah, I totally agree, it's going downhill, and, like, it sucks that that's happening. And I sort of agree with both sides of that, because on one end, I don't think Mike and Steve, obviously they're not going to come out and say, like, oh, this show isn't good anymore. And I don't really agree with that. But it's different, and unfortunately it's a little bit worse because they're not in the same room and they have to deal with that aspect of it. And it's changed the dynamic, if you will. Like, it changes it. And, like, unfortunately, it makes it a little bit worse. And not to say that all of the COVID episodes have been worse than all the ones before, but it hasn't. I don't know, and I don't want to be on this thing just bitching the whole time and saying mean stuff, because at the end of the day, they're doing this for us for free, and that's really the way I try to look at it. Is they're just trying to make us laugh for free, and obviously they get paid for it. They get paid for keeping up an audience and doing ad spots and stuff, but they're giving it to us for free. They're able to do that. And I sort of liken it to, if you could walk into a comedy club and there's supposed to be, comedians on stage making funnies, and instead the person is sort of lecturing you about, like, trying to give you life advice and stuff like that, you might be like, wow, this comedy club is sort of not a super fun time right now. But because you didn't pay for a ticket to get into the club, you can always just get up and walk out and be like, all right, I'm going to come back next week, or I'm going to come back in 2 months and see if it's funny at that point. And I can pretty much guarantee there will be something very, very funny that happens in the next 2 months. But this episode was just one of those episodes. I feel like every once in a while they sort of get up on a soapbox, and they have these non-comedy conversations, which isn't, it's not always a bad thing. And I might look back on these episodes and be like, wow, that was really nice to get behind the look after Mike dies in a few short years. That's not even a good joke to make. I'm going to look back at these episodes and be like, oh, it was nice to see the person, the people behind Dynamic Banter, and not just hear jokes the whole time. So yeah, I mean, that's the way I feel about it, and feel free to send us an email at talkinthebanter@gmail.com. That's talkinthebanter, no G in talkin, @gmail.com. Or you can call, and if you call, leave a voicemail, because I probably won't answer all the calls. I think I did get a call from somebody, but they didn't leave a voicemail, so sorry. Call at 661-494-7228. Call or text that number if you call, leave a voicemail. And you can tell me your opinions. Tell me how you feel about all of this stuff. Let's see. Anything... And, with all this, I don't mean to, like, victim blame, to be like, oh, well, if you think that it's not funny anymore or it's not the same, it's really because you're not in the right mindset for it, and you're, privileged or whatever the fuck, like, you're taking it for granted and they don't owe you anything. And at a certain point, it is that they don't owe us anything, but it's also like, they do the comedy, they do the comedy. And so getting something other than comedy is not par for the course all the time. And that's, I hope that's understandable to them too, because it's perfectly understandable. Yeah, okay. So we'll do actually, I didn't take notes on the ads this week, so we won't take and yeah, fucking take that. Have funny ass jokes in your episode or I won't read your ads that you already. If you want to find the ads, I'm being super passive aggressive and I'm joking about it. If you want to find the ads, just go listen to the episode and find the ads cuz I didn't take notes this week. What else do we have here? Is that it, or I think we can get into our first extension of History Road? And let me do a quick once over that we can say this person's name. Yes, we can. So we've got a History Road coming in. Thank you very much for submitting from Hunter Morgan. Okay. Wait. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So I've been saying send us the history roads no matter how long they are, and we'll read them. And I mean that. And I was almost about to be like, oh, shit, this looks long. But we're going to get right into it. Okay, I have to find out where I start this. Okay, there's a little disclaimer that says this whole email should take about 8 minutes to read at most. So after 8 minutes, we're cutting it off. Just kidding. Okay. Greetings from the East Coast. My name is Hunter Morgan. Like any good history road, my name is half real and half made up. For the past few months, I've been working as a substitute teacher. It's like being a ninja that no one knows where I'll show up each day. It's unlike being a ninja in every other way. I can't even wear a mask. This must have been before COVID times. Because I think you'd be... Yeah, well, whatever. Let's get into it. Occasionally, I'm given access to a teacher's computer, which is nice when my only instructions are to be a slightly larger person in a room full of people reading or filling out worksheets. At this particular school, though, they had disabled access to every game site I could think of. To stave off boredom, I started aimlessly clicking around the desktop, and I realized that the Documents folder contained hundreds of student assignments. One in particular caught my eye, a PowerPoint presentation. It was titled simply and urgently, Droughts, in all caps. That's droughts. Mic effect. I figure that living as you boys do in a very hot state with your very clean horns, that you could use some information about droughts. I copied this. So yeah, I hope Mike and Steve are listening because there's some knowledge about to be dropped on ya about some droughts here. About droughts. Lost my place. I copied the information into a text document, making no changes except to rearrange the sentences into paragraphs. I present to you a little public service announcement regarding droughts. What causes a drought? That part was in all caps, so I yelled it. Drought looks like a thunderstorm, which can destroy crops, plants, corn. Wait. Okay, okay. I had to make sure I read that right, and I did. A thunderstorm can cause drought when it doesn't rain for weeks. When it's dust in the air, it's a dust storm which can cause droughts. If it doesn't rain for weeks, it means that the water cycle is broken. This was at an elementary school? I'm guessing. Seems like about 6th grade. If the water cycle is broken, it doesn't rain for days, weeks, months. The water cycle can be fixed when it's too cold or warm. Whenever water vapor to form clouds, it cannot return. There are weather trouble when it's a water cycle when the clouds formed. Some of the clouds are formed exempt when it doesn't form too well at all. The whole problem is when it changes the air pressure effect. When clouds can't form, it cracked the seal. When rain doesn't come out, clouds can't form. It's really bad. It doesn't rain for weeks. It means the water cycle is broken. Okay, what the fuck? When the clouds cannot form, the water cycle does not work. That's why it's important to have rain every single day. Where do droughts occur? Based on all of the droughts combine. Based of all of droughts combine in different. But why have to be in different country? I tell you why the whole droughts was reported by Florida, because it caused damage. When it hits North Carolina, and then it hits Florida and South Carolina. It also hits North Africa when it's finished with Florida. I'm getting a little too worked up here. I'm sorry. I think that it hit every country of the world because it says on the news that Florida 40 animals die for hunger and thirst. Effects of a drought. Evaporation. When the plants can get destroy. When they get the other plants will be destroy. The sun give them power to grow out, but when it doesn't rain for weeks, it will dry like dust. Many drought can cause damage in the garden when you leave it outside. The drought can kill most of animals. People can be thirsty for water. Animals can die from drought when they have no food or water in general. The animals die from that hot sun burning animals and other. Some can cause natural hazards to a warning on TV screen all over. Drought can cause damage, capital D damage, to other countries combine at all. Why it has to be droughts. That was apparently supposed to be a question. It will have destruction to all the other countries. Some don't have to be destroyed, but it can be. Things to remember during a drought. Meanwhile, the whole thing weather is not a water cycle or it doesn't rain for weeks. Next bullet point. Drought can be dangerous to everybody at stake, including animals. People can be killed because of droughts and animals of heat. Dry place can help droughts when it doesn't have water or food. You can die out there. And remember, the entire time it keeps doing all this the whole time. And that's the end of this person's paper on droughts that they wrote. And Hunter writes here, I hope that was fun and or that you've learned a little something about droughts. At the very least, we now know whether Steve was right about long history roads. Oh shit, that part was for me. I thought that was part of his original email. I'd say this is Mike and Steve are 0 for 1 on the sometimes long history roads are not funny. This was funny to me. I hope that you guys found it funny. I found it funny. Yeah, this is great. Thank you, Hunter Morgan, for sending in our first history road. I'm hoping we can keep this up week after week. If you have a history road to send, you can send it to talkinthebanter@gmail.com. And shit, guys, that's it. We'll catch you next week. Look at me. I said it was going to be a short episode, and we fucked it up. We fucked it. One more thing. I almost totally forgot. We didn't get the update on the Dr. Pepper, on the hot Dr. Pepper. So I wonder if Mike and Steve had it, and if they just forgot to say anything about it. Yeah, I'm kind of bummed. I fucking drank hot Dr. Pepper for nothing. It was a waste. It really was a waste. I don't recommend it. But yeah, all right. So I guess this next episode is going to be all about the Beatles. So we'll be on that next week. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.